What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to Bourbon of the Week. My name's Chris. I'm going to be your host for today, and today we have Elijah Craig C924. Now, here in Pennsylvania, we don't usually get the C batches until the next year's B batch is out, so the fact that this is already on our shelves is crazy. We're going to put this through the gauntlet, price, taste, drinkability. I already reviewed this, but I had a few drinks beforehand, and when I was editing, I realized maybe this shouldn't go on YouTube, but I will put that on our Patreon, patreon.com/Bourbon of the Week. Make sure you check that out, link in the description. But let's pour this up and let's try it out. Again. We are also going to put this in our Bourbon Bomb of the Week up against C923, which was one of the Whiskey of the Year contenders for a lot of people, but everybody knows before we get started on all of that. Time for the traditional sip. Cheers, y'all. I still don't think it's great. So as I mentioned, I did review this the other night, and I did agree with a lot of things that I already said about it, but we're going to go through one more time just to make sure it wasn't the alcohol talking. This is coming in at 129 proof and only 11 years, 0 months. That is going up against last year's C batch, which was 13 years, 7 months. I think people were expecting to see this go back up in those age statements, but it didn't this year. 11 years, 0 months versus 13 years, 7 months. I think this is going to be a problem for them going forward. I know it used to be 12 years age stated, so people were excited to see the older stuff. They recognized there was going to be some younger stuff. Obviously, this is the youngest whiskey in this bottle. It could have older stuff in it. I don't know the exact blend of that, but 11 years is kind of disappointing to see. This is coming in at 129 proof. Let's put it through price, taste, drinkability. We always start with drinkability. How much ethanol kick is there compared to the proof? Now, I will be honest with you, Elijah Craig Barrel Proof always seems to drink easy for me. 129 proof, it doesn't drink anywhere near that for me. I would say we give it a 7.0 if it drinks right at its proof. If I were to blind this, I'd probably put it right around 120. So nothing crazy at the end of the day, but still pretty good for 129 proof. I gotta give it to him. The Elijah Craig Barrel Proofs do always drink easy compared to their proof, especially up against some other bottles that I know that are higher proof, that drink higher proof, right? Stag always seems to drink closer to its proof. There are a few batches that don't do that. Something like Jack Daniel's Barrel Proof, they seem to drink a little bit hotter to me. Still nothing crazy compared to their proof, but Elijah Craig Barrel Proof does always do a pretty good job at getting rid of that ethanol burn, that ethanol gasoline flavor that comes along with a lot of these higher proofs. So 7.0 if it drinks right at its proof. I'm going to say one more sip. We'll give it a score. I still have my notes here from the other night. I said 8.13, and I don't disagree with myself on that. 8.13 seems like a pretty fair spot for this when it comes to drinkability. But let's talk about taste, and that's where I kind of went off the rails the other night. Let's do it. I gave this bottle a 5.13 in my review when I did it the other night, and I think that's a bit disrespectful. I gotta tell you, I think that was me just being upset about what Elijah Craig was offering me here. I don't love the flavor profile on this. It does have something on the very tail end, on the finish of this, that I do not enjoy, but a 5.13 is definitely disrespectful. It's a pretty good bottle of whiskey, all things considered. I don't think it lives up to a lot of the better releases from Elijah Craig, but it's still a decent bottle of whiskey. I wouldn't be mad if somebody gave this to me at like a party, especially when we talk about the price on this. But as far as taste goes, I get a lot of the older, not older whiskey flavors, but the older Elijah Craig Barrel Proof flavors. So I didn't used to always originally love Elijah Craig Barrel Proof. I thought it had this funkiness to it. And then on the very tail end of this, I always call it black licorice. Maybe somebody can help me out with this a little bit more. There's this flavor profile in the end that is just off-putting for me. I just can't put my finger on exactly what it is, but it's in this glass here. It's funky. It tastes almost like you're in like a library, like a dusty library or something like that. I don't love this flavor profile, and maybe you do. Maybe this is something that you do enjoy about Elijah Craig Barrel Proofs that I'm just not finding attractive for me. But it's not the best bottle that I had. I definitely don't think it's going to beat C923, even in a blind. So I'm going to take one more sip. We'll give you a score when it comes to taste on this bottle right here. Yeah, it's tough because I feel like the front end of this glass isn't that bad. I feel like I get some pretty good cinnamon and some warm baking spices on this. I feel like I get a little bit of sweetness, but it is a lot more of the spiciness on this particular glass than the sweetness that I truly love in a whiskey. And then the end, again, it's like oaky, but it's dry, it's tannic, it's a black licorice is the only thing that I can really think of. The finish on this is what's really throwing me off, and the fact that that's the last thing that you really think about before you go into giving it a score on something like this is probably what's sticking in my mind. 5.13 is disrespectful. 7.0 if it's an average tasting whiskey. I think this is an average tasting whiskey for most people. I don't think it's exceptional. I don't think it's going to be on anybody's Whiskey of the Year contention list. But that being said, I'm going to go like right below a 7.0 because for me, I don't love it. For most people, I think they would say this is average. So I'm going to go like 6.93 when it comes to taste rather than 5.13. That being said, of course, we move into price on this bottle right here, and this bottle came in at $75 here at Fine Wine and Good Spirits, $74.99 plus tax. And I gotta tell you, I think the price has gone up of years late. I can't remember what I pay for each one of these batches. They used to be like 60 bucks, then they were 65. I think last year's was like 70. So now we're in the $75 range. We're definitely moving up $5 a year. I mean, are we really mad about it? Kind of. But at the end of the day, this not being my favorite release and also having a little bit higher of a price point, I'm not thrilled about the price. If they're still sub 100, I think they're competing in a market that can price it about that $100 range. I'll probably stop picking them up over $75 if it's not something that I hear about, right? If somebody comes out and they're like, this is the best batch of Elijah Craig Barrel Proof, I'll probably pick it up. But otherwise, if they start to hit that $100 range, I'm probably out. I had a couple people in my Discord tell me the Larceny B524, or I'm sorry, C924 was fantastic. I had Larceny B521 way back when, and I absolutely loved it. But for some reason, Larceny just doesn't get the same hype as Elijah Craig. Maybe people don't like the wheated over just a standard mash bill that includes rye. So whatever it happens to be, I might move back into the Larceny world because I feel like it doesn't get talked about quite as much as Elijah Craig. It gets enough coverage. So one more sip will give you a score when it comes to price. We give it a 7.0 if it's an average tasting whiskey with average drinkability at an average price point of $75 to $90. This is right on average when it comes to price. A little below average for me when it comes to taste, a little bit above average when it comes to drinkability. So I'm going to keep it right about that 7.0 mark. I'm not mad at $75, but I am more upset about the fact that this is dropping in age statements and at the same time raising in prices. So it just seems like they're trying to get more for less. And at the end of the day, I can't really get behind that. So I'm going to go like 6.91 when it comes to price on this. I'm not too upset about it, but don't keep pushing the envelope here, Heaven Hill. You know what I mean? But of course, we finished that off because we are going to put this up against our Elijah Craig C923 one more time. I got to tell you, even after a few drinks the other night, I told you Elijah Craig C923 crushed this bottle. And I'm hoping I can do that again tonight. And it's kind of cool to see if I can repeat this a little bit more sober. Let's pour these up. Should be good. By the way, if you don't know what this is the Great Whiskey Challenge Tasting Kit. It comes with 3 glasses, 3 tags. They have a separate kit, which has D, E, and F. So the first kit comes with A, B, and C. And if you want to do more than 3, you can grab D, E, and F. It's absolutely fantastic. I use it all the time. Whether you're by yourself or you're with some friends, it's always nice to do things blind. Let's drink these and let's figure out which one we like the best. Again, the other night I did this after a few drinks, and I absolutely nailed the fact that C923 was better. But everybody knows traditional sip. Cheers, y'all. Still kind of hot. If you don't remember, C923 is coming in at 133 proof. This is 13 years, 7 months. This was a Whiskey of the Year candidate in a lot of people's agenda. I will tell you, this glass right here, pretty good. I don't think it's great. The question is it better than this one? I don't think that it is. This glass is not as good as this glass over here. Which is crazy because I was just looking at this, and I don't know, maybe it's the lighting. Okay, it is the lighting. The angle of my light, I have a light over here. So this one looked darker, but it's just because the light is closer here. So I thought maybe this was the older one. But this glass, not as good as this glass. Still decent, though. I won't lie to you. It tastes a little bit better than what I expected this to taste like, especially next to each other. It's not as far off as I thought it was going to be. I thought, at least the other night, I literally picked the glass and I was like, this glass is 10 times better than this other glass, and it ended up being C923 better than C924. But these are closer tonight, a little bit less drinking, than they were the other night. But by no means are they comparable, right? You can definitely pick up the difference on this. First of all, 129 versus 133 proof, 4 proof points difference, and you can absolutely tell. This one over here tastes or drinks a lot easier than this one over here. Still heat on this one over here. But if this is the C923, which I think that it is, at 133 proof, I would blind this mid 120s max when we were calling mid 120s on the 129 proof. So it definitely makes a difference when it comes to proof. All right, let's take one more sip of each and then we're going to call it. I think this is pretty obvious for me. This glass is not nearly as good as this glass. Again, pretty similar when it comes to color. This glass drinks easier, whether it's 129 or 133 proof. This glass has something on the finish that I just don't love. Let's take one more sip and then we'll flip one of these over. I'm going to finish this one because I like it the best. The nose actually isn't bad on this one. I feel like the nose on this is better than what I'm getting when it comes to the taste. We're going to call it. It's got to be this glass. But there's only one way to find out. I'm going to finish this off. We'll flip it over. And the answer is A. A is this glass, right? Yes. This is definitely the C923. I mean, it's really not close at the end of the day. This glass is much better than this glass, but this glass was a lot closer than I thought it was going to be. Now that I've had a few less drinks in me, still a pretty good glass of whiskey, just not for me. So at the end of the day, this bottle came in at a 7.32, which is better than the 6.71 that I gave it the other night. Again, after a few drinks, I was kind of just upset because I didn't love this glass of whiskey and it was $75. But I got to tell you, Elijah Craig Barrel Proof does put out a decent product pretty much every time. You can't be too mad at $75, but when you got C923s of the world, I know they've got better whiskey, so that's what I'm looking for. But listen, that's where I'm gonna leave you for today. Make sure you click that like and subscribe button if you enjoy this type of content. If you wanna see the original video, check me out on patreon.com/bourbon of the week. Make sure you check out our Discord and our Instagram. Go click those follow buttons and come chat with us 24/7. Please don't drink and drive. Always drink responsibly. Stay healthy, stay happy, and stay shooting a second video if you drank too much in the first. Cheers, y'all.